Joshua, chapter 9, if you want to go there. Towards the front. Joshua, chapter 9. So what happened was, is that the Israelites were given the command to conquer Canaan. And they were doing a pretty good job. But there was a group there, the Gibeonites, Gibeonites, Gibeonites. There was this group called the Gibeonites who came up with this ruse. And what they did, they only lived 3 days away, but what they did is they put together a bunch of old clothes, cracked wineskins, moldy bread, and then they came to the Israelite leaders, and they pretended that they had come from a long, long, long way away. They said, look, our bread, it was fresh out of the ovens when we started. Now look at it, it's old and moldy. And they said, what we want you to do is to make a treaty with us. And the Israelite leaders said, well, how do we know that this is true? How do we know that this is true? And then in verse 14, it says, the men of Israel sampled their provisions, but did not inquire of the Lord. They used their own best thinking. They lived by their own ideas. And what happened was they made a treaty with the Gibeonites. Well, a couple days later, 3 days later, they found out that the Gibeonites were not from a far, far away, but they were only 3 days' journey. And they said, why did you do this to us? Why did you do this to us? And they said, well, because we wanted to live. And so the Israelites forced them to become the woodcutters and the water carriers of Israel, but they were not, because they had given their word and made this treaty, they did not destroy it. And this was in direct disobedience to what God had told them to do, but now they'd given their word. And so it all happened because they did not inquire of the Lord. My recommendation is, and I think it's quite biblical, is that you inquire of the Lord about everything. Now, inquiring of the Lord is a special kind of prayer. There are prayers where you already know what you want to do. You already know what you need to do, and you're looking for strength or courage. Or you already know which direction you want to go, and you're asking for confirmation. But there are lots of decisions that you'll have in an economic meltdown where you don't know whether to go to the left or right. And this idea of inquiring of the Lord and asking Him what to do. So important. So that's an example of what happens when you don't inquire of the Lord. But look at an example of what happens when you do. Turn over to 2 Samuel chapter 21. 2 Samuel 21, verse 1. So the Gibeonites became the water carriers and the woodcutters. But when Saul became the king of Israel, he persecuted the Gibeonites. Chapter 21, verse 1. During the reign of David, there was a famine for 3 successive years. Sounds like a recession, doesn't it? 3 years. So David sought the face of the Lord. David inquired of the Lord. And this is what the Lord said. It is on account of Saul and his blood-stained house, it is because he put the Gibeonites to death. So Saul had broken the word. And now this is very interesting because, you're looking around, you have no idea why in the world why are we having this famine? No idea. David inquired of the Lord, and the Lord revealed to him that it was because of something that a predecessor in a different generation, you don't want to miss that, somebody in a different generation even, had done that caused the recession that they were having, or the famine that they were having at that time. And then because David had inquired of the Lord, then he was able to make that thing right, and the famine stopped because he inquired of the Lord. So just a real encouragement to make this a cornerstone. And this is one of the most important and one of the most practical things that you can do in a meltdown, to inquire of the Lord. Why? Because it's easy to look at the data and come to the wrong conclusion. Yes? We need more wisdom that we don't have.